Hey everybody, welcome back to the JS Composite Works. Excuse me, screwed up my own name. Wow, this is a great way to start this video. The JS Composite Works YouTube channel. As you can see from my attire, it's cold in here. This morning I think we woke up to 12 degrees and it's now currently 17 degrees outside. Let's just say the heating system in here is not up to the task, and I think we're hovering probably around 60, 62 degrees in here based off of what I can, the old feelometer. So that's just my best guess. But anyway, because we're the world is about to end, apparently, according to all of the news outlets, because we're going to get snow and ice here. I just went out to a big box home store, and God, people are not nice right now. Jeez almighty. Everybody's in panic mode. I just needed to get some freaking adhesive. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. So if I seem a little bit spicy or whatever, that's why. I haven't calmed down yet. That and 2 cups of coffee. So, but anyway, this is my normal 10 a.m. kind of mode. But anyway, yeah, so I've already gone through, as you can probably see in the background, and laid out all the pieces that were CNC cut for this, the sheathing that's going on. So anywhere that there's a flat plane on this, we cut it on the CNC machine to save a lot of time. And, you know, now it's just like every piece fits in a sequence. So now that it's all spread out, and that was a lot of fun to figure all that kind of stuff out. Nothing like getting the brain going. Now that that's all sorted out, I have to figure out the sequence that it goes together, because if you have one piece that's supposed to fit on top of another, if it's the other way around, it's going to throw this piece off, that piece is going to throw the next piece off, next piece off, next piece off, and down the line. So I've got to figure out the sequence to all of this in order, you know, before I started fixing everything down. The other thing on the docket for today is the puzzle joints are in the bigger pieces that I need to put together, mostly like around this flange area, the foredeck version, foredeck portion of the sheathing. That needs to be joined together, and I'm going to show you how that I tackle that part of it. It's kind of a neat little trick that, you know, it's been around for a little while, and, you know, I've used it extensively, you know, in my kayak builds, things like that, when I was dealing with wood. So, but other than that, you know, if we get to it, we'll start gluing everything down, brad nailing it so it stays in place while it cures, and then we can move on to the next part of the project. So it really just depends on my time management, how long it takes me to figure all this stuff out. Because around 3:30, I'm going to scoot out of here, go to the Richmond Boat Show, which is in town this weekend. And because it's one place, I can get all of our local dealers together all at one time and go visit them and promote the business. So that's what I've got going on today. So probably not the best timing for all that, because with this storm approaching, they're predicting a lot of power outages and stuff. We're prepared, we're fine, but it's going to stop me from doing what I need to do, which is working. And I'm going to get, I don't do well with sitting still. So this is going to be interesting. But that being said, I need to get to work because time is of the essence right now, and we're going to get on it. Okay, so here's the first part of the challenge, is getting these pieces all together. One of the things that Chesapeake Lightcraft started doing a long time ago with their kits was putting puzzle joints in smaller pieces in order to make bigger pieces. And this works extremely well. And one of the things that came up, you know, in the process, we came up with different ways of putting this together. Over the years. Originally, they were just, you know, we slathered epoxy in here, we put the two together, clamped it down, all that kind of stuff. But that took time. So this is where CA glue comes in. Cyanoacrylate, I think, is how it's pronounced, and I usually cannot pronounce that. So, but that's what is the secret to this, this speeding this up really, really quickly. So what I'm going to end up doing is putting these together, make sure that they're in the correct plane so that we don't have a spot, where it's high and then, the other one's low. Because that will require filler to fix, and I don't like using filler unless it's an absolute necessity. So I'm going to glue these together, get these together and glue them together, and then after that we'll move on to the next phase of this, which I'm going to put fiberglass on the underside to further prevent any kind of movement, because we've got to sand this stuff all down, which will remove some of this glue. But the fiberglass will provide a extra layer of support under that, under this portion of wood. That way it doesn't come back later to basically haunt me in the form of a shadow in the surface that once everything is all finished, polished, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to get right to it. So basically I am creating dots. A little accelerant, lock it in place. And there we go. So, I don't know if I mentioned this. Plywood right now, it's not what it was when I was growing up, that's for sure. It is the lowest quality. Just, it's bad. So, marine ply would have been ideal in this situation, but again, that's a really nice plywood, and using that would of course be a superior material, but it's just not necessary. So I'm just going to have to grin and bear it as we go along with this. Okay, so this is all what we call stitched together. It's kind of like how welders would weld sheet metal together, just putting stitches, at a certain like distance apart. This doesn't have to be a complete fill of it. This really does a good job in small quantities. So I did have to fill a couple times because the gap in this, it's just soaking the glue right on up, and it just required a couple double application to get it straight and affixed like it's supposed to be. So anyway, what's next is we'll flip this thing over. I will slather it with some resin, put a strip of fiberglass down to just basically make sure that joint doesn't fall down through expansion and contraction. It's just wants to get it to where it is supported from underneath and doesn't move in the future. So we'll move on to that. In the meantime, I've got several more puzzle joints that need to be put together, and I'll do that and off camera. So anyway, struggling for words. Crap. All right. Let's get on it. Okay, so this is all ready to roll. I have glass. This is going to be the underside of it. I'll flip this over. what I've kind of determined here is the resin is actually kind of soaking through the joint. So more than likely, I'm going to have to when I turn this over, I'm going to have to sand the top side because the resin has soaked through and started dripping out the bottom. But there's a light layer of glass on this. This is only like 4-ounce fiberglass, and all it is to basically hold this joint from the underside. Therefore, when we put the glass on the top side, we've got a balanced way to, make this joint one piece of material. So that's the reason for this on the underside. Again, just to make sure it is stabilized and we don't get print through in the final product, which is the one thing that I'm really don't want to ever see. So that's kind of where my thought process is going on this in order to stabilize this joint. So I've got 2 more at the back that I'm going to do real quick, and then we're going to move on into fitting some of these parts in the transom portion of this, because it gets fairly complicated back there. One thing I've kind of realized in looking back and editing this footage, the little bit of editing that I do, is this looks it's very hard to wrap your head around what this is actually going to be. Sometimes I have to stop and think myself and refer back to the drawings in order to kind of, get this to make sense in my head. So, what we're looking at right here, it's hard to kind of visualize, is actually the deck portion. And this is going to have a small step here. Then it's going to step down and actually bond inside of the hull. So there will be a very small lip running around the outside edge where the bond line is between the hull and this, where it all goes together. And this is where, all the design work that Casey at Wispatech did in order to make sure all of this stuff fits together. We had several phone calls and emails back and forth, determining what the layup's going to be, what the layup schedule is going to be, what the finished thicknesses are, in order to come up with, what these shapes are supposed to be as far as dimensionally speaking, in actual measurements. So I don't know if that clears anything up, but if it doesn't, just trust me. And as this thing goes together, you'll start to see kind of the grand picture of how all of this is supposed to go together. So again, this is the deck portion, and this is what the actual shape of the boat will be, the deck. And so we've got, several different flat planes that are all coming together. And what I'm trying to determine now is what sequence these have to go in before I start to affix everything permanently to the framework. Because once it's glued, it's the whole idea is for it to never move. So if it's glued down, it's not going to come out without a certain amount of damage, so to speak. So I want to make sure that I'm doing this right. So if it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 10 times of trial fitting something, just trial fitting it is very, very important in order to make sure, in any project, you can always trial fit, but once it's glued down, you're done. So that's where I am on this right now. So I'm going to get into this, and I'm going to explain some things once we get all this stuff affixed and in, that a lot of people might not know about mold making. And because whenever you're building a mold, you really do have to think all the way to the end how everything is going to come together. And there are a lot of little steps in between that can trip you up and create disaster. So we want to avoid that, and I'll get into that some more as we get into all this. All right, so I've got the sequencing down now, how this is all going to fit together, and that was valuable, so that I'm not rushing or getting frustrated or anything like that. So now that I know how this is all going to go, this one first, this one second, third, fourth, and fifth, and then ultimately the center will go on here as well. And once I break out I'm going to use construction adhesive on all the frames, and then brad nail it in place so that it holds it holds it in place until the construction adhesive has time to cure. Which and this temperature may be, I don't know, maybe by tomorrow, maybe, I don't know. So we'll see, and that's the beauty of working in winter. So anyhow, how this is a good time to talk about draft angles, because anytime you're molding anything, you want to make sure that your draft angles are going to allow the part to be released. So when I say draft angle, what I mean is basically a 90-degree angle in any panel. So when this panel comes into this panel, or this one into this one, if it's 90 degrees, it could be a little bit problematic to get out, because you have to rely on slip on one plane to pull that part out. And you really don't want a lot of slip when it comes down to, a proper coating. And then, putting laminates on top of that, all that kind of stuff. And then in the heating and the curing process, it's going to heat up and move. So you do want some grip to the surface, a certain amount of initial grip. And that's where the release systems come into play. And I like high slip semi-permanents, but they don't give the best surface quality. Some of them, it requires a really, really good application. A person knows what they're doing and how to do it. And a lot of times, it's problematic when you get into that. So for something that's a complicated shape, that you're not relying on aesthetics on the part when it comes out, or don't want to put that much effort into, buffing, cleaning it up and all that kind of stuff, which all of these will be buffed. But I just prefer a waxed surface or wax release agent, because it gives you the best start when you get into that final finishing portion of the build. So back to the draft angle. So if you imagine you have a 90-degree draft angle in a mold, such as here to here, that's going to be really hard to release on the the vertical plane as it comes out. So in good design and good mold design, you want to have a more than 90-degree draft angle. So if you look at this part, just basically look at it, it looks perfectly square, but you won't really notice it until you go to put that part in. If you put it in backwards, you'll see the draft angle, and this is actually, I would say, probably about a 90 to 93 degree draft angle. It's very slight, but it's just enough so that when you go to pull this out of the mold, it will release, and as it comes out, the part gets smaller as it comes out rather than bigger, because if you have bigger, then it's going to key in and it's not going to come out. So all of those have been designed in, especially into this area, because you've got a lot of different planes going on here. And again, that comes back to proper design, and that fell on Casey at Wispatech on, figuring all these angles out and getting it to where it would come out of the mold without a whole lot of brute force. So, but that's my whole spiel on draft angle. So what's going to happen now is, now that I've got the sequence down, I can affix these permanently. I'm going to put down on each frame where these things can be affixed with some construction adhesive on the back of it, and then I'm going to follow it up with some brads from brad nailer in order to keep it from moving while the construction adhesive cures. At this temperature, it could be more than 12 hours. Hopefully that's the case, but that's what the brad nails are for. So anyway, I'm going to get into that and start getting this to where it looks like something. So, wow, we're back on the project. This is Monday, and let's just say we had an interesting day and a half of wintry precipitation. Did not go according to plan. All the scaremongerers, freaking everybody out about snow, and really didn't turn out to be a whole lot. We still had power, as you can see, so that's great. We did get, what they said would happen, happened, but the amounts were way, way down. So, although the freezing rain we got last night made the commute in really interesting, and I'll put in some video of that. I cannot get in my normal door, which is over here. It's completely dammed up with ice, and getting to it is a literal downhill slide to get to the door. So I think with a bum foot, I'm gonna just choose not to do that. So anyway, onto the project. Enough about weather BS. This is almost ready to start filling in strips. I have to place the decks down, the deck surface, which were joined together, fiberglass on the backside. I'm going to flip it, put them down, get them positioned, and then nail them down and glue them down. So everything is going beautifully. Can't say it's kind of easy. So I'm thankful for that. The next thing, I'm not sure I'm going to do anything with the flange area quite yet, because I want to look at that because this little curve, I don't know if you can kind of see it, there's a lip up and then it curves down, and that's where the hull and deck joint will be. So I'm kind of looking for a solution there on what to do. Haven't come up with a plan yet, but it'll happen when it happens. So try not to overthink it and think about it too hard, so that way ideas can come forth. But anyway, yeah, we're just going to get into this and start putting the deck down. Once that's down, I'm going to move over to the hull and start placing all those panels on. And after that, can start filling this thing with strips and make it look like it's supposed to look like. So anyway, here we go, into the time lapse. Okay, I lied. We're not going to go to the time lapse. And also, too, this is an opportunity to show that little feature here that is causing me some pause to figure out how to do. So, but anyway, that's not what I'm needing to address right here. So this is a little bit of a challenge here, because these two panels, this one's skewed around. It's not placed in the right place, so don't pay any attention to it being not square. But these two panels need to land on this frame, which is great, but that only leaves me roughly 3/8 of an inch to drive a fastener down in through this and into, which might be okay, but I think I'm just going to err on the side of easy, and just put a backer on both sides of this so that it widens it out to about 1.5 inches, so that it can receive both of these panels nice and flat and be fastened down properly. So, all right, back to the time lapse.